Arrakis. Come, princess. The path to our enemy begins here.
Now that Dune Prophecy Season 1 has ended, it is time to look at some of the unanswered burning questions it left us with. Valia now knows there's another player in the game for power, the Sisterhood has been broken and headed back to its rightful glory, we've seen what happened to Hart, and the Emperor is dead. Now personally, I felt the first season ended on a pretty good high note, but it definitely left us with a lot to think about. Now first and foremost, for those who didn't see the news, last week it was announced during a press conference that the show has been renewed for a Season 2, which may be surprising considering that some people thought the show didn't really have a lot of buzz or attention, but I think some people didn't realize how popular the show was internationally, and it was #1 on HBO Max for weeks until recently with Creature Commandos taking the top spot. Now I've broken this video into sections based on groups. We have the Sisterhood plot, we have the story about the throne, we have Desmond Hart, and of course we have the two sisters, Valia and Tula. With that said, let's get started. Spoiler warning for the first season of Dune Prophecy. Let's start this off and talk about the Sisterhood. Now, the last we saw the Sisterhood in the finale, Reverend Mother Dorothea fully possessed the body of her granddaughter and young acolyte Lila, as Jin secretly tried to save whatever is left of Valia's previous remnants of order. Now, with Dorothea taking charge and others like Emmeline and Sister Avila helping along the way with the removal and destruction of the thinking machine, it's safe to assume that the Sisterhood will be in a much different place when it comes to Season 2. So I believe we'll see Sister Jin continue to find a way to protect Lila and to bring her back after being possessed by her grandmother, and after that they'll probably try to find some way to bring back the Sisterhood after saving her friend. Now speaking of Lila, I really hope that we get to explore more of her parents and who they were. Now the only mention of one of her parents was Tula saying that she knew her mom, which to me kind of implied that her mother was no longer alive, but when Lila accessed her foremother's genetic memories, she didn't find her mother. Now I believe that her mother's still alive, and maybe Jen can find her, and maybe we'll get some confrontation between another mother and daughter first, and that being between Dorothea and her daughter, who we know is Lila's mother. Now there's also a possibility that the Sisterhood could be on a run next season because of the Empress blaming them of the recent death of the Emperor, so that's a plot I would expect to see as well, as they'll try to prove their innocence and try to convince others that they had nothing to do with that and really create the separation between the new Sisterhood and Valia. So again, I think it's going to be really interesting to see the navigation with the new leadership of the Sisterhood being Dorothea, and just thinking about the other Reverend Mothers representing as truthsayers to the royal families. Will they be blamed? Will they be condemned? Will they be locked up? Will there be some type of witch hunt for truthsayers in the galaxy? Again, I'm very excited to see what comes of the Sisterhood come Season 2. Now, taking a brief detour before getting to the next group, let's talk about Harold Harkonnen. Now, like Kieran said in the finale,
never to trust the Harkonnen.
We saw him using the gift that Hart gave him back in episode 5, and he recorded Valia's plan to kill the Emperor but also help Naz escape. Now, I could see him using this information for a backup plan, like a contingency plan against his aunt, or like blackmail against her to give him more power. And this can also be a way that the other sisters can prove that that was Valia's plan, and that can relieve them of any of the pressures of being accused of killing the Emperor. Either way, I see him putting himself, but more importantly his family's name and their legacy in a much higher position of power next season, and we now know what he's willing to do or who he's willing to sacrifice, being at his own family, to do so, and I can see him and Hart working a lot closer come Season 2. Now speaking of power, let's talk about the death of the Emperor and who will now replace him. As it seems Empress Natalia has all the power to her disposal after now killing Francesca and watching her husband die. Now I could see Constantine, even though he's a bastard child, maybe he steps in as like a temporary emperor while they seek out someone else, but Natalia will probably be the puppet master while he's doing that, and I could see Hart by her side as they control the Imperium. But the real question when it comes to Constantine is, will he be seeking answers to what happened to both of his parents, his mother and his father, and this may be possibly creating some type of civil war between him and his stepmother. Remember, he's got a new fleet behind him, so he's not completely powerless, and we don't know what type of relationship these two characters had because we never saw them have individual screen time together. So it's going to be really interesting to see that new dynamic on screen between Natalia and Constantine. Will he just fall in line? Will he be seeking answers? Will he be going against his stepmother, something that I'm really excited to explore more in season 2. Now, sticking with the idea of interesting dynamics, now after failing to kill Desmond Hart and after failing to capture his heart, both characters Theodosia and Tula are now under arrest and will probably be held in holding cells, meaning they have the opportunity to fight one another and to escape together. Now, speaking of Theodosia, I'm really excited to see more of her character and face dancers and learning more about them and the Bene Gesserit and learning about them experimenting more on people, which makes me think there may be some connections between them and Desmond Hart, and the idea of the sisterhood going against them and them battling for the intergalactic war of the shadows could be something that could be very exciting to see more of in season 2 as well. Now, on the other hand, we have Tula, who I can see focusing in season 2 on trying to get Hart back on her side, trying to rebuild their trust, and trying to make him understand why she had to abandon him, all while not making him even more driven to killing his aunt for being the reason why she made that decision. Now, sticking with Hart for a minute, there is so much to explore with this character, but something I talked about in my finale breakdown was the idea of who Francesca gave him to as a baby. Now, in that flashback sequence, she was led to believe that the mother was kind because of her eyes, but according to Hart, he was raised on a planet where it was very unforgiving and he had to fight for everything for survival. So was his adopted mother bad? Did she die? Did they sell him in exchange for valuable resources? Are they behind his resurrection of being reborn in spice? Again, there's a lot to explore with both Lila and Hart's parents, and I hope they're fleshed out more in season 2. Now let's get into everything with Valia now being on Arrakis. Now what I'm going to go over now is what the showrunner had to say about the very last moments of the finale. As she says, after a season of Arrakis kind of exerting his pull from afar, to actually go and put boots on the ground at this incredibly overdetermined and sort of almost mythic Dune space that we've known very well, but we sort of keep it at a distance the whole season. All I'll say is, I think Valia is there. I think Valia is going to find out a lot more, given that she is sort of back where Desmond sort of emerged as an adversary. And it will be interesting to see what she finds out there. So based on those final shots of the finale, I think it's safe to assume that we're going to spend a lot of season 2 on Arrakis, and I couldn't be more excited. Like, I love how Arrakis has looked on film, whether that's David Lynch or Denis Villeneuve. I just love the vastness of Arrakis, the mysteries of Arrakis, the Fremen, and I'm just beyond excited to be back on this extremely dangerous planet. Now, on the planet, I think we can expect to see more of Michaela, which may be setting up a relationship that may or may not be romantic between Michaela, Nez, and Kieran, which wouldn't be the first time we've seen Atreides and a Fremen falling for one another romantically. Now, with Valia being on Arrakis, it's going to be interesting to see her influence and if she begins the legends of the Kwisatz Haderach and how she may be planting that on the planet in hopes to bringing back her power, but also to get closer to discovering her new enemy. Which actually brings me to my last point: who's the mysterious person who's been watching Hart during his operation? Now, I've shared in my previous videos how I feel like Vorian Atreides has his hands and his involvement in bringing back Hart, but I've also seen many people in the comments recently talk about a character from the books who goes by the name of Erasmus. Now, Erasmus is an independent and some call eccentric independent robot that isn't like other robots who takes orders, but instead he asks questions about things like morality and why humans can't seem to reach their full potential. Now, knowing that, it would make sense that a robot would seize the opportunity to take Hart and create a weapon to attack humans and creating fear in the process. Now, I didn't go down a deep rabbit hole while looking into this character, but based on what I researched, I wouldn't be surprised if it is revealed to be the one behind all of this. There are so many things that could be added to season 2. Will Valia come back into power of the sisterhood? Will the virus continue to be transmitted? What other Dune concepts and characters will be introduced in season 2? So before ending this video, let's talk about when we can expect to see season 2 of Dune Prophecy. Now, as of right now, at the time of this recording, Dune Messiah is currently slated to come out December 18th of 2026. So to keep that Dune train of momentum going, I could see both the film and the show being in production next year, leaving Dune Prophecy season 2 somewhere releasing before or shortly after the film, and maybe having a release date like early September or late October of 2026, which would honestly provide a perfect lead up into the release of the new film Dune Messiah. Now, on the other hand, things can change. As we know, Timothée Chalamet is very busy. We know Zendaya is very busy. So the movie might be pushed back into 2027, and we might get the show first versus the film coming out first, because that will be like the reverse of what happened this year. Obviously, Dune Part 2 came out in March, and then we got the TV show that came out later in the year. Now, as it pertains to the length in the episode count of season 2, obviously we know that season 1 was only 6 episodes, and I would really hope that maybe we can go up to 8, if not 10 episodes to really flesh out the story more and also to develop the supporting characters a little bit more as well. So knowing that the production of season 1 took around 13 months, so a little over a year, it's likely that season 2 of Dune Prophecy won't be premiering into sometime in the middle or late of 2026. We'll just have to stay tuned and learn more about the details as the months go by. So I think that's the perfect spot to wrap things up. So before ending, please leave your thoughts about what you hope to see in season 2, as well as wanting more episodes. When do you expect the new season? Let's talk about it all in the comments below. So if you haven't already, check out my previous videos that I did for Dune Prophecy, including my recently released full breakdown of the entirety of season 1. Thank you all for watching this video once again. Please support this channel and this video by liking this video, but also sharing the video, and more importantly, consider sticking around by subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell notification. Don't forget, you all are awesome, stay safe, and I'll catch you all on the next video.